Our mission is to inspire, educate, and motivate young people across the Caribbean. This is the Vision Seekers podcast, where views collide, founded by Amanda Webley and Shawala Richards during the COVID-19 pandemic. But VSP is more than two. We are a team dedicated to seeking out and presenting solutions to the problems that matter to you through open and honest conversations. Stay tuned.
Yeah, you know, we out here with the VSP movement. Listeners, we do have a message, so stay tuned. We never listen well, always tell we. What she say? She tell we fi express for Patwa, so we a shout it like an anthem, so we tell them. That's where the Patwa from the side order, put it in a main order, and we not promote no disorder. Just sit own up it thing like the bandana. Our creative blessings from the high father. And we not sell out society standards or throw English out like landlord. But with the express myself from me heart, and is a Patwa for one love, one all. And me from VSP, I sure unu a pre. The Patwa language make we use freely. So let's unite our hands to the song, promoting Patwa through the island. Yeah, we never listen well, always tell we. What she say? She tell we fi express wo Patwa, so we a shout it like an anthem, so we tell them. That's where the Patwa from the side order, put it in a main order, and we not promote no disorder. Just sit one up it thing like the bandana. Our creative blessings from the high father. And we not sell out society standards or throw English out like landlord. But we the express ourselves from we heart, and is a Patwa for one love, one all level. Ooh, blah, level. You. That's where the Patwa from the side order, put it in a main order, and we not promote no disorder. Just sit one up a thing like the bandana. Our creative blessings from the high father. And we not sell out society standards or English out like landlord. But with the express we sell from we heart, and it's a Patwa for one love, one all.
The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. And what we're going to do for this episode is kind of break down that quote into three different parts. So we're going to look at the culture of Patwa. We're going to look at the stigmas and the stereotypes attached to its use. And then we're also going to look at one major question, which is...
Do you think that Patwa should be one of Jamaica's official languages? And what do you think we could do as a society to achieve complete acceptance of our Creole?
Okay, as an official language, I think not. But reason being, that in our Patwa, as we see it, the jargons change frequently, very frequently. As a new song drops the market, that's a new slang. And it's going to be hard to keep track of and hard to document because you have to find dictionaries, plurals, pronouns. Persons will have to sit down and learn that. Where, as a dialect, it's not really taught, it's something that you don't know. So, as to put it into written format and for people to study it, I think it would be very difficult for our society. And then everybody, certain parishes has certain different ways of spelling certain words.
True.
So it would be hard to track.
Makes sense. So I guess you disagree then that Patwa should be one of Jamaica's official languages. All right. On a different point, though, I think I asked the question earlier on. What do you think we could do though to achieve complete acceptance? Let's say, for example, it didn't become one of Jamaica's official languages. Do you think that we can promote more acceptance of our Creole?
Yes, we can promote more. Because even in business places or certain jobs, they don't allow you to speak Patwa. They only allow it standard English for meetings or for press communication.
Okay.
So it would be more. The only reason they might engage in Patwa dialect is if it is a party or a relaxed function or a relaxed setting. but if it's more of a dress and tie, code usually speaks with straight standard English. So we can incorporate that more in our everyday functionalities for it to be more accepted.
Okay, no problem. I thank you very much for that point. You did awesome, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Vision Seekers podcast. My name is Showoff Richards.
And I am Shamaya Haywood, and we will be your host for today's discussion on the acceptance of Patwa in Jamaican society.
And pretty much for this episode, we'll be focusing on a quote from Ludwig Wittgenstein. His name is kind of difficult to pronounce, it's German, so yeah. Anyway, he said that the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. And what we're going to do for this episode is kind of break down that quote into 3 different parts. So we're going to look at the history and the culture of Patwa. We're going to look at the stigmas and the stereotypes attached to its use. And then we're also going to look at one major question, which is, should Patwa be one of Jamaica's official languages?
Okay, and for today's episode, we have 2 special guests. We have Mr. Carson Thomas and we have Mr. Andre Cuff, also known as Chat Patwa. Guys, you can check him out on Instagram and YouTube. But before we begin our discussion, I would like for them to tell us a little bit about themselves, as well as to tell us their interest concerning this topic. So you can go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, so good day. My name is Carson Thomas. I am I'm going into my 3rd year at the University of the West Indies, Mona. First of all, I'm a Jamaican. So I know a lot about this situation, about this topic, having been born and grown here, speaking both the Creole and the English. I am also a linguistics major. I major in language and linguistics. It is my life as well as my study. I've done a lot of research in the field of Creole languages, Creole formation, diglossia, blah, blah, blah. So on and so forth. All of them terms that we will come to speak about today, I have done my fair deal in them. So I have the experience to talk about this topic.
All right, guys, thanks for having me. My name is Andre Cuff. I was born and raised in Jamaica. I'm an alumni of Manchester High School and Homewood Technical. I completed the curriculum there, and then migrated to the United States, where I started to attend college. But funny enough, language was not actually a part of what I was pursuing. It was actually business. But I'm an enthusiast when it comes to languages, especially where I'm living. There's a huge plethora of various languages that are here. So did have in Spanish that I learned, I would say about to an intermediate level. And then after that, I had switched over to Portuguese. So I started doing that. How I became involved in languages, believe it or not, it was an attempt to teach my wife, who is from Portugal.
Oh.
And then, whenever she's around family, that she would feel comfortable that, in being able to follow conversations and jokes and such. Mm-hmm. So doing that, that's when I started to break Patwa to like a molecular level to see, like what really went. I'm not formally trained, you know what I mean? So I started to use the experiences I had with the other languages to try to break it down. And that's when I started to see the rules and the patterns that was evolving from that. So, once we got to a certain stage where I saw how easily she was picking up the language, doing it this way, then I decided to start a YouTube channel. So that's from where, I slapped something together and started the YouTube channel. And it just started getting traction with interest from various people from all over the world. Like I'm talking as far as the Netherlands, or people from Costa Rica, all over Africa. So the the reach that the language actually had, it was it was overwhelming. But I know this is going past an intro. But yeah, once I started doing that and putting it together, I saw the interest, and that's why I decided to continue pursuing it, and that's why I continue to do to this day.
All right. That's
Interesting.
nice. Well, I mean, it's still business, you know, you turn it into a business. So technically, you're still following that line of work.
Well,
Right.
I wouldn't say per se. I would say it's more volunteer work than anything else.
All right. Okay, so the first question. So, what is the historical and linguistic significance of Patwa, and how is Patwa important to you? So I guess I'll start off with Carson.
With me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Linguistic and historical significance. Well, historically, first of all, this is a language that was formed from the contact between slaves and their European masters in the Western slave trade. So, you know, well, that's possibly the biggest part of this whole thing, was the fact that it was formed between the contact between those two groups. People speak about that part of it all the time. So it holds that historic significance, but also linguistically, you know, it is a Creole language, meaning that it was formed by a group of people who had to put something together. They constructed this just for the purpose of speaking, because they had no what do you call it? They had no one language that they could communicate in. So they kind of just mix up everything and put it together and said, this is
pidgin or something like
yeah,
that.
it's a pidgin at first, but then when someone learns a pidgin as their first language, it becomes a Creole, which is good. And its importance to me, I mean, it's one of the major languages of my country. I think a good 80-90% of the conversations I've ever had have been in Jamaican Creole. So if I never know it, I couldn't talk, you know. So that makes it pretty important.
All right, Andre, you have anything to add?
Yeah. For me, Patwa is my first language. It's my first encounter with being able to speak. So even though I don't use it as much as I did when I lived in Jamaica, whenever I formulate my thoughts, they come to me first in Jamaican Patois, and then I kind of have to translate them to English in order to communicate. So I see it as it's a part of my identity, you know, because it kind of makes me kind of who I am, because it's definitely a part of our identity. So even though, like, when we were growing up and stuff like that in school, they would tell us that, oh, you know, you chat bad and, you know, you need to speak. It's actually a part of our identity. So us doing that is actually we're suppressing who we are as, you know, as a people, because it's a part of us. So yeah, so it like Carson alluded to earlier, 90% of the conversations he has in, you know, currently is probably in Jamaican Patois. You know, it was also growing up until I migrated.
Yeah. I mean, I know that at one point they were having some, I don't know who they were. I don't really remember who it was, but they kind of wanted to implement Patwa in the education system. So because all these children are coming in as Patwa as their first language, they should actually teach Patwa and then move from Patwa to English. But nothing came out of that. That's it.
Well, careful. It wasn't nothing.
It wasn't nothing.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a bit later. It didn't get to the level that we wanted it to, but something definitely came out of it.
No, I'm saying just to add to that, I believe the two can coexist. I believe the two can coexist, and we can actually operate as bilingual because it happens in many countries. So I don't see, why that, would pose any kind of problem because, like, the majority of the citizenry, that's the language that we use anyway. So I believe the two can coexist.
I believe the two have to coexist. I believe that's the only option that we have presented to us, because if you pick any one of them, then you're leaving out a large segment of people. So bilingual is the only way that includes everybody.
That's true.
Let's get into the discussion, right? So we have iconic activist Lou. She has dedicated her life to promoting the understanding and appreciation of Jamaican culture. But even now, after 59 years of our country's independence, we realize that there still appears to be some shame associated with the use of Patwa. All right, so the question is, do you believe that the description of Patwa as a socio-elect is correct, or are Jamaicans widely bidialectal? In a sense, we're referring to code switching. So which one do you believe fits the description of Patwa in Jamaica? I am putting that question to Carson.
Sociolect is when, I guess you kind of say that, certain dialects are for certain social classes. And then bidialectal is code switching pretty much, I think, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, sociolect is just basically saying that this type of social gathering, this language, this other type of gathering, this language. And bidialectal is just like you can use whichever one, whichever place. So I think it would be clear, very clear, which one this is a sociolect. Well, it's more a sociolect than a bidialect because, as we know, when you are in formal settings, you use English, and when you are in casual settings, then you use Creole. That's how it always has been, well, at least for my short lifetime. And we are used to that. Oh, by the way, that is what a diglossia is. When you say that a certain language is for a certain type of social situation, and in another language is for another type of situation. Two languages being used alternately depending on where you are, So it's definitely a sociolect. I'd also like to make the technical point that Creole is not a dialect of English. It is a Creole that was constructed separately from English, not a dialect. It's a completely different language. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Wait, so if it's like Latin, would all the other languages coming from Latin, would those be dialects or?
Precisely. So Latin descended to Vulgar Latin, which descended to Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Catalan, yada.
You just say Vulgar Latin.
That's what it's called. I don't make the terms, guys. But it descended into those directly. You see, it came directly down from Latin. But Creole did not come directly down from English. It was made by Africans who took English vocabulary and added it to their grammatical skeleton. But I don't want to. I try not to get too technical. But I think Andre was about to say something a while ago before Showoff spoke.
Yeah, I was just adding to what you were saying earlier, but I mean, icons like Miss Lou, like obviously Bob Marley, and those that did a lot of work on the international stage to bring Jamaican culture to the masses, and all the work they put in to get it to where it's at right now. There's such a huge appetite outside of Jamaica and such a huge interest in the culture and wanting to learn more and just to get past like the basics, that I don't think we're giving Patwa enough credit. And so I disagree with both categorizations of like, whether it either belongs to a social group or is code switching per se. Because even here in the United States, when you're African American, that is the classification a lot of times that we fall under. Certain places will use AAVE, or I think it's African American Vernacular English or something like that it stands for. Yeah. And around other formal or corporate settings, then you kind of speak like the corporate English so you can kind of blend in. So that to me is what, when I hear the term code switching, that's what it comes off as to me. It's like, okay, so you're in a place where you can't be your true self. So you kind of have to switch it up in order to fit in.
But that's what we do in Jamaica, isn't it?
I've heard this perspective before,
Yeah, I'm just saying, because like even if no matter how many Creole you want to speak, when you're there, yard, when you go to a business interview, when you go to school, it is time to shape up, but it is time to bust out the English. So that's why I say we do quite a large amount of code switching here.
Right. But I think also another part of that question was there was something that along the lines of shame associated with Patwa. I think it happens. The bulk of that happens in Jamaica, because once you leave the borders, it's like you're so fascinating to the foreigners, because they might have visited Jamaica for like a short period of time.
That is true.
They love it, and when you're out, you find out, because I'm not gonna lie, that is how I was conditioned when I was living there. That you talk bad and Patwa is bad and this and whatever. So you come to America now, you try to hide the fact that you're Jamaican, because this is how you're conditioned before you left. You see what I mean? And then when you find out that you come from Jamaica, you're the most interesting person that they ever met.
Everybody wants to know you. Everyone.
Because I've been here 24 years now. I've experienced this. The first couple of years when I was here, I tried code switching to fit in. You understand? But no, after I realized like who I am and how revered our culture is. No, I fly my Jamaican flag high. You understand? Anyone I go, I'm not afraid to tell people say Jamaica I'm coming from. The point now where they're so fascinated that they want to learn Patwa for real. So you understand? So, and even in Africa, I have a WhatsApp group where we have guys from just about every single country where we can't talk to them like me I talk to them right now, and there's no difference.
I understand. That's
so
great.
If we'll be able to go to Africa and we can actually destroy the language barrier and talk to people in Jamaican Patois, you see. So that's where I'm glad that we're starting to see this whole the light that was shown on it earlier, that it's negative and we should be ashamed of it. It's the other way around. You understand? You should really, people want to be a part of it. So, share it.
Yes.
Exactly. I agree with you. Our language, we need to, use it and use it with pride.
When you have something, is what you say, you're harder pressed to appreciate it, I guess, when it's yours, when you have it all the time, always going, you know what I mean, because you get accustomed to it, and you say like, oh well, this just there, after we talk it sometime, I guess. But then people outside now that don't have that all the time, they see you and they just go, wow, I've heard that like once in my life before. This is amazing. And I just think how do you say it? It's like we treat it as common, I guess, because it's just around us so much.
Just to add to what you're saying, Carson, I'll give you a prime. Okay. When I was in Jamaica, I lived in the country, from Mandeville, the Mandeville area, Williamsfield, that area is where I was pretty much raised, right? There was every fruit tree known to man where I was. You understand? Every fruit tree. And I tell you, when we take fruits for granted. You understand?
Right.
That you would see them, you wouldn't pay attention to fruits, right?
Yes.
And then you come to a place where the prices that you're paying for stale food, you know what I mean? But then we have, like Prejudice said, food that drop off at the tree then. It's true.
Right.
You understand? Problem is, just like I was explaining to the wife, when you're looking at something from the inside out, you can't really see sometimes the beauty of it until you step out of it,
Right.
Hear what you have to others and you see how much greater yours is. And then you really start to appreciate it. And I think that is the trap that a lot of like Jamaicans fall into, that we don't know what we have. You understand? And that is the problem. We really don't know what we have.
All right, so the follow-up question was, do you believe that there is a stigma associated with the use of Patwa? But then again, I realized that based on your discussion so far, you kind of point out the different stigma associated with Patwa in terms of, people always have said that persons who speak Patwa, them ghetto or them chat bad and whatever. But in reality, it is a part of us, and we should be prideful in actually speaking the language itself. Now, then my next question to you is, can you recall ever encountering prejudice for not code switching, or maybe doing so at a point in time? So that's my next question. If yes, give us an example. Hold on. Oh yes. So that question is for you, Mr. Andre Koff.
In not code switching, it's really location based on where you are and who you are around, and what the mindset is of that environment. Yes, the people they're not progressive and have backwards way of thinking. If you talk a certain way, they might try to be judgmental and assume certain things about you and your character, which could be the furthest from the truth. So yeah, but believe it or not, I actually experienced more of that in Jamaica than outside of the borders. Understand? In Jamaica, I can't tell you how much time I've been told to speak properly. Like, what is your definition of properly?
Exactly, what is that?
Yeah, and then the thing that blew my mind is then I leave the borders and people are like, no, please speak more Jamaican. We want to hear you speak Jamaican. So you know how confusing that is? That's very confusing. So yeah,
I can imagine.
I think we look down more on Patwa than but I think that is all about to change. And just look in popular culture. Popcorn go, I think he went to Uganda, solo at 30,000 spot arena. And that people climb over fences to hear Popcorn and I sing every word, all his songs word for word. You understand? Shedsia gone all over the world. Everybody I try to learn the language. Coffee doing her thing. Skilly there road. Everybody I wap. You see what I'm saying? So I'm telling you that Patwa it's because Jamaica has given the world so much in terms of food, music, athletics, and the places that is one of the. We can't tell you how many times we see it voted best destination in the Caribbean for tourists, years upon years. People want more, you understand? So, like I said, we need to wake up and to realize what we actually have, because it's not what we think. That old past colonial mindset of, you understand, we need to really shed that and stand up and take back our language. It's a language. I mean, so I don't care what anybody said. They can say, yeah, dialect, whatever. To me, it's a language. And I'm going to continue treating it that way.
Well, I do agree that it is a language. But I think the problem that we are falling into, and one of the big reasons that I think there is still a prejudice towards the Jamaican Creole. Okay, so the problem is that some people can only speak that, and that is all they can speak, which is saying nothing is wrong with speaking it. The problem is when it is all that you can speak, Because if we were a country that was not that did not have English as an official language, this would not be a problem if you only spoke Creole. If Creole was the only language that we use, it would not be a problem. But we can't discredit the fact that we are an English-speaking country. Our literature is in English, our media is in English, our formal society, upper, top of people, in English, right? So whether we like to admit it or not being able to speak English can and will put you at a disadvantage. And it's one of the reasons why teachers discredit young students from speaking Creole. And here's the thing too, it's not so often the case that they're telling the children to stop speaking the Creole when they're talking to their friends, which does happen, yes. But it's more often the case that like the teacher's in class, teacher asks a question in English and the child responds in Creole, right? But that's not good practice for the working world, for university support, because that's not the language that I just communicated to you in. I would like if you could answer me in the language that I just spoke to you. And if we all, trust me, if we all were bilingual, it would just be the most beautiful thing ever. I talked about go over this about what going on? You go back in a class. You say, well, Mr. Yeah. Bilingual is the goal. We cannot discredit the Creole. It is beautiful, yes, it is a language, yes, but so is English.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with that because like if you don't know English, you're kind of at a disadvantage when especially if you leave the borders.
Definitely.
That's a disadvantage for that. I do. But I believe also that our native tongue, which is Jamaican Patois, how I know it, should carry, at least at home, should carry the equal weight. You understand? It shouldn't be just discarded as, just some foolishness with them attack. You see what I'm saying? It's a part of us, it's a part of our culture, it's woven into everything. You understand?
Well, I understand that you say it should carry equal weight. And I believe in some aspects that it should, but it doesn't. Right now, it doesn't. And if you pay too much attention to the Creole and you don't pay as much attention to the English, what you end up with is a person that can they function so well in casual settings, they function in traditional settings, they function when with family and with friends and with a dancer and so on and so forth. But then stepping out of that bubble now, Jamaican culture, into like international, the international space, the work space, and then you realize, whoa, the bubble was a bit bigger than the Jamaican culture, and I'm kind of a bit off guard right now, so it's balance.
Yeah, no, we definitely understand that point, because even other countries around the world, English is most used. So no matter where people come from, their first language that they will try to learn, if it's not English, it will be English. So I do understand the implications of that. So yeah, you are at a disadvantage if you don't know English. But my thoughts is just, Patois is a part of who we are, so we shouldn't discount it.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you guys think that English should be mandated in the workplace?
How do you think, Andre?
To mandate English
in the workplace?
As in, it depends, like in written form or spoken form?
Yeah, which form?
I mean, any form. Yes.
I wouldn't say, because to mandate something is to force people to do it. That's kind of a slippery question. You know what I mean? Because to mandate something is you're actually forcing people to do it. I think if you're dealing with locals and you're dealing within the confines of Jamaica, it shouldn't obviously be mandatory, because we all speak and understand Patois. If you're trying to communicate outside the borders, then you're gonna have to learn some kind of standardized English in order to communicate. Because unless they know Patwa, it's gibberish to them. So, but I don't. Yeah, it's a trick question. Not really a trick question, but I'm not on mandates.
I don't think we should making any mandates. I think we should just. Well, I say this very carefully. I think we should just leave things as they are, because right now, depending on the workplace, depending on the type of meeting, depending on the mood of the place, we can code switch while we work. I don't know who has experienced that. There are times where the meeting is very formal, and it's just English. And then there are times when even the head of the meeting is speaking Creole all of a sudden, like it just happens depending on the mood, depending on who is there. And I like that. I like that, the openness to say both languages can be used. Just make sure you can code switch between the two of them. That's how it is. Yeah.
So if you went abroad, would you still talk Patwa occasionally, even if they might not understand you? Because I know, like, for example, one person that I met said that they would never do that because they don't want anyone to think they're a scammer. And I was just like, what?
Good point.
I'm sure it's indeed. I don't think Jamaicans are perceived as scammers on a whole. Yes, we do know that there's some scamming that takes place and it does make the news, but I think we as Jamaicans follow those headlines a little bit more closely than the people that are abroad. You understand? They are more enticed with the sports, the track and field, the music. They're more enticed with where the next best Jamaican food place is. They're more enticed with, because what they are really exposed to when they're there is they go to resorts and they might go a couple of other venues and stuff like that before they go back home. You understand? And I experienced code switching myself when I came down and I was at the Royalton. It was a couple of years back, and there were like Jamaicans working there, and they were, walking around. They were almost trying to speak to me like an American type accent. And I would write out and said, the brother, no bother with that. It was like a weight off of them shoulders as soon as I told them that, like, when they come and the wife, you don't have to do any of them thing there, you understand? Start to it like, and it was comfortable for them. So yeah, I don't think we are in that much of a negative light as in terms of like the people think the whole island is a bunch. No, I don't think that's the case. No, I think it's with the culture.
Yeah. Using Patwa, speaking Patwa, it kind of make you feel comfortable, yes. And sometimes even on the news, we realize that, as to what Carson said, he said that even in the media, you have to be using English. And when I realize when they actually go out into the communities to interview residents, some of them have to try to fix up them words to speak English properly and still fail. And sometimes person look at them and say, why they make this such a bad woman that come on TV come talk? But really and truly, that is how they can express themselves. They feel free to express themselves like that. So,
and what I'll say to add to that, in a situation like that, I would listen. I have a little slogan. It's not an easy slogan to have, but it's something I try to put into my life. It says, "Speak how you are spoken to," right? So that is my goal in everything. If you will speak English to me, I should be able to reciprocate. You're talking Patwa, I should be able to. You're talking Moldovan, I should be able to reciprocate. Speak how you are spoken to is one of the little things I keep in my head. So I dream of a Jamaica where it's either they have the interviewer speaking in the Creole, so the residents can understand the questions. But even better than that, the interviewer speaking in the English and the interviewee can understand the English. Bilingualism. I can't say it enough times. The bilingualism is just that Jamaica that I am dreaming of.
Well, how I see it, and from dealing with the people internationally, whether we want to accept it or not, Patwa is starting to take on a life of its own outside of the borders of Jamaica. You understand? Because the kids in Ghana now, they're running with it. You understand? People in Uganda, they're running with it. The Nigerians are jumping on it. So they're because yes, it's the language it's nestled in English, but a lot of our words, our phrases, our mannerisms are West African. You understand? So they are taking it and they are embracing it and they're running with it. I just posted an interview this morning. There's a guy on there from Gabon. I didn't even know where Gabon was. It's in Central Africa. And him talk to me in full on Patwa, and his first tongue is French. You understand? Wow. Interviewer, he's an aspiring dancehall artist, and he don't even like to sing in French. He likes to sing in Jamaican Patois. So it's having a bigger impact than even we can imagine. And I think just pay attention in the next couple of years. Watch, you understand? You will see what's going to be coming out of the continent of Africa. These kids love Patois, and that's all they want to use.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. All right, so we know that tourists are attracted to our culture, especially the food and the dance and the music, and again our language, right? So how did Patwa become a pop culture phenomenon? How did it become a pop culture phenomenon? You can go ahead and answer, Mr. Andre.
I think well, obviously the icons, the giants like the Bob Marleys and stuff, they paved the way and opened a lot of doors. I think even before that, there was a couple, shortly after, there's a lot of pioneers that operated in Patwa when they went abroad in some of their, the music. But even during the 90s, oh my God, like 90s dancehall, to this day, I have people here that I run into, we don't know one lick of Patwa way, can list off a list of dances, trends, fashion, all kind of things that associated with 90s dancehall. Just that alone, it was like a huge explosion of Jamaican culture. To even, remember when Snow just started coming out back in the day? In Farmer and all them things, and you understand? And to see like a guy like him doing that even though most of the people couldn't understand a word other than in Farmer, it's such a huge attraction that I can't explain it. You understand? You really have to be outside looking in to actually see it. But with the explosion in the pop culture and how well we perform and the experience with the food, it's inexplicable. We can't explain it, but it has way more of an impact than we actually understand, and that is what I'm trying to just to articulate.
Yeah, I said of course, from the music, I mean, you can't overstate the music, the dancehall with the reggae and the literature from Miss Lou, you have Bob Marley, you have the Wailers. Yeah. Well, I am not very old, but I have heard these names many a time, And from the food to the tourist attractions, to the historical significance of our country, to the language, and then and can't leave out the diaspora. The Jamaican diaspora, them really bring with them, support with them, push the culture, So I think it would be very difficult for Jamaica not to get a foothold abroad, because right. we offer so much.
You touched on something a while ago where I forget to mention. You see the Jamaican diaspora abroad? Oh my God, is that difference?
It not now, man.
It not now. No,
It's true. It's very true.
Definitely true.
Which part me live in this my little area? We barely have Jamaicans down here. You understand? I may have 3 houses in my area. We have flag Jamaican flag high. Right? American flag. I mean, soon put from one out that door. You understand? So because it's just a certain level of pride when you actually find out where you come from and how the culture is revered. Then you understand, you want to celebrate it. But for some reason, me feel like it's celebrated more when you leave. You understand? When you're there, because I'm victim to this. Because when I was there, it was like, oh man, everything just, with lack of a better, the words are more to use. But this you realize what. So that's why I'm saying, from the inside looking out, you see one picture, but from the outside looking in, it's completely different.
Yeah. So sometimes we have to go some far places in order to appreciate what we have. That's the way it is before. All right. So what do you think we should do as young Jamaicans to increase awareness of the uniqueness of our cultural identity? Kai, so this one is for you. What do you think we should do?
So the last part of that question again.
All right. So the question is, what do you think we should do as young Jamaicans to increase awareness of the uniqueness of our cultural identity?
Okay. Well, I have to first start off by saying that, which I mean, I don't know why for some reason people want to like avoid this, or like people don't like to bring it up so often. But there are some aspects of this culture that they're disgusting, and I hate them. I don't know what. Yes, it's it's our culture and so forth, but patriotism has a line, and there are some aspects of our culture that I just do not want people to find out about. I don't want them go abroad. I want them stay here and dead, right? So this one maga gun violence, which is like the prime focus of dancehall. The one maga girl business and be a single mother about the place and all that. Listen, some of these things need to die. So let me just state that first and foremost. All right. All right. However, to the productive things, to our we have the food here. The food here is, I don't think we even realize what a blender of cultures created the food here. Because I never even know till what they say, like, what was it? I think, was it rice and peas? Oh, I can't remember. I think it was rundown. It was rundown and something else. And I thought, I didn't know that those had come from Africa. And there was another thing, and it was Arawak, but it was so common, it was so Jamaican that I was like, oh, we made this, there's no way that this came from somewhere else. And I was like, no, the Indians brought it. And like it's just so we just have such a melting pot here that brought in these different food. The vocabulary in our language, it is so much from English, yes, but then what? Akan, Yoruba, Igbo. These African languages are in. It's marvelous. I mean, it probably takes a linguist to understand, to really be in love with the fact that all of these African words survived these centuries to still be present here today. That's a miracle, So in highlighting the uniqueness of our culture, all I can say is just enjoy it. Enjoy it, like realize what it is. It is rich, it is powerful. I doubt any country this small has had the impact that we have. Why? Because zero. Because we just
that's a fact. Zero.
Zero, honestly. I cannot think of any.
That's a fact.
And when we appreciate it, just like the Creole, when we appreciate it, just like Bob appreciated it, just like Miss Lou appreciated it, they appreciated it, and in turn they caused others to as well. It's simple. Just love it, and spread the love.
All right. So in my opinion, I think that Jamaica as a culture is so diverse and rich and has so much more to offer that the young people them need to actually put a spotlight on the things that make us like really great. You understand? Dancehall is great, and the lyrics and stuff that's out there now, yeah, everybody, you know, dance to it and stuff like that. But in my opinion, I don't believe that has longevity. If you look at the music that has stood the test of times, you understand, it's the setup is completely different. So one advice I give to like all the young people starting up is consult the elders. You understand? They knew the formula and they got it right, and it took them. You look at artists that survived the test of times that we still celebrate today that are still performing. You understand? There's value there to learn from the elders, and just highlight the stuff about Jamaica that's great. You understand? Even though we might not think so, believe me when I tell you that the world does, and they're paying attention. So there's a lot of opportunity. If we can realize these things, there's a lot of opportunities to be had. You understand? So we educate ourselves in that regard, we can definitely be more prosperous.
How do you go about consulting the elders?
You know, sometimes it's just a matter of showing respect and seeking the counsel. I'm sure they're not going to turn. Most of them won't turn your way. Yeah, they're not going to turn your way. But if they're trying to explain and to counsel you and you're shunning their advice, then obviously they're going to turn their back. But you know, if you come from a point of humility, and they will tell you what they know, because a torch was passed on to them, and they're looking to pass the torch on to somebody else. You understand? But if the people coming behind don't want to take it, then you know, that's where it dies, and that's the problem.
I agree with you. That's true.
I don't think we have like a strong enough community in Jamaica for things to be passed down continuously. I think we're all kind of trying to run after other cultures, like, you know, if America sneeze, we catch kind of thing.
That's a dead end. I can tell you that's a dead end. You understand? America is America. You understand? But anything with America too, you know, America gets a lot of its influences from other places. Jamaica being one of the main ones that they used to pull from. So the irony of Jamaica to be looking to America for inspiration, that don't even make sense. You know, that don't even make sense. So we need to realize like what we have and then treat it accordingly. You understand? Jamaica is a powerhouse. They call us the heartbeat of the world. It's for a reason.
All right, final question. Well, it's not really a final question. Do you think Patwa should be an official language? Why or why not? And I think I'm going to start off with Carson for this one.
This question is, let's say, it's not easily answered. It's not clean cut. Yes, no. It's very nuanced. Well, for some people it isn't, but for me it is. I think you have to be very careful when you speak about official languages. Here's a problem. If we say right now, if we set Creole as an official language, the problem is that it would be too soon. Why I said too soon? Because we don't have a standardized writing system. Well, we do have one, but the general public is not aware of it. So it would be it'd be a culture shock per se if we just do it right now. But aside from a standardized writing system, we don't have enough literature. We don't have enough media. we do not have enough Creole in, how do I say this? The place where we have the most Creole is just by word of mouth. It does not exist much in other media. So I feel when we have created more Creole, you call it, things, then we'll have a better foundation to say, okay, this language now, it's done some things. We've done some things with it. I think it deserves the official status. Then we can start having that conversation. Should we get to that point? Yes. And one particular reason why I think so is because of education. We have a problem with education. We have it's looking very bad for English learning in this country. There's no other way to put it. English learning in this country is not going well at all. Patwa learning through the roof. It's amazing. But English learning, we're having a problem. Okay, I don't want to make the response too long, but I'd like to just give some details about this. One of the reasons why we're having this English deficiency, so to speak, is because, I think someone said it before, when children go to school, they're taught English in English, but they don't know English. So how can you be teaching them English in English? It doesn't make sense. So when we get to the point, right? So when we make Creole a language of education, it's all just going to make sense. I'll teach you this language in your native language, then you learn the second language easier, right? And not only that, you will learn the separation between the two languages, the clear difference between Creole and English. Because that's one of our problems. We can't separate the two languages. We don't know what is your name from where your name, how old are you from, how much. Ask a child. If you ask which is which, many of them cannot tell you which is the English sentence and which is the Patwa one. But when we be able to make that distinction, amen, we will do marvelous things, marvelous things. So yes, when we make this foundation, make it an official language, but we still have work to do before that.
Just to piggyback off of what Carson said, I'm in agreement, and there's no reason why we can't be bilingual. But like you said, English is important, but yes, we have to have standardized, obviously, writing, and they have to be more widely accepted by our own people first before have it official. And yeah, like you said, there's not a lot in terms of media or literature to support it, but that's a challenge for us. You understand? So if we want to, sometimes we have to be the change that we want to see. You understand? So now it's on us now. If we want to see that change, we actually start documenting it, start putting literature together, and to move it forward. So that's where it's at right now, and I feel like it's, from what I can see, from both living there and living outside of there, it's definitely something worth doing. We should do that. That's a part of our identity. Call us bilingual, that's fine. You know what I mean? But we know people we have people in different countries that they do the same thing. Canada is one of them. It's so there is no rhyme or reason with the impact that we have on the world that we shouldn't consider it a second language.
All right, so do you think that there are actually enough persons that would actually be interested in trying to achieve this complete acceptance of Patwa in the society? Enough persons to go forward and try to actually make this an official language? And how do you think we can get more persons involved in that process?
Me or Carson?
No, go on, Joe.
Yeah. It's just funny because as I'm talking to you right now, I'm just getting a notification on top of my phone from somebody from the YouTube channel that just commented Patwa gone out of Jamaica right now. So just to prove the point that I'm trying to make to you guys, that it's getting bigger than what we're even imagining. But I'm trying to remember the question. But I think acceptance is you just have we have to try to change the hearts and minds of people so they can get the stigma that was force-fed to us from earlier on through conditioning, through the education system, that Patwa is bad. Patwa is not bad. You understand? Patwa is a part of who we are. Yes, it is very necessary that we need to learn English in order to function and to communicate with the international community and outside of the borders. But at the same time, you know, I mean, it really needs to be, like I said, a second language, call us bilingual. So once you change the hearts and minds of people and there's general acceptance, then, you know, then it will definitely, you know, I think it will be successful. That's my opinion.
And I can say firsthand that there are more than enough people willing to push for this standardization of the Creole. I mean, enough. As in, like, you know, you and me and Tom and Jerry and so forth, yes. But there are people in higher places, what you call them? Not laymen, you know, who actually want this to go forward as well. Professors in university. And it's actually funny how many of these people are actually not Jamaicans. Oh man, you wouldn't even believe how interested international linguists are in our language.
I mean, the fact alone that the person that came to try and turn Patwa into a language, like with an unofficial language.
Oh, no, he came here to make a writing system for it.
Yeah.
Frederick Cassidy, yeah, and he wasn't even Jamaican, right? He was a white man from, I think he was Dutch, I don't remember. But yeah, you see, he wasn't even Jamaican, and he cared from all the way over there. So yeah, and we have professors. Well, I know mostly are professors. We have some politicians, but there are people who want to see this happen, and there are even more people. There are even more, you know, the common Jamaican person who wants to see this happen. So if it's numbers we're talking about, if we're talking about influence, we have it. It's just about doing it.
But I mean, mark my words, I think with the things that I've been seeing happening and the communications that I've been getting from, like I said, I bring up Africa all the time and how fascinated they are with Patwa. I think we're going to see more noise being made outside of Jamaica in Patwa than actually inside of Jamaica. Trust me.
All right. So I think that's a good note to end on. So guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I enjoyed the discussion.
Well.
Thank you, guys.
Come on, drop the recap, man.
All right, so basically what we did in this episode was to examine the history of Patwa and the importance it serves to us as Jamaicans. We also looked at the stereotypes linked to the uses of Patwa, and as well as the possibilities of accepting Patwa as our main language.
And to our listeners, you know, I have, well, 2 questions for you to think about, and I guess you can drop the comments in the chat. Do you think Patwa should be taught in schools, and do you think it's appropriate for the workplace? So for all the future entrepreneurs, you can look out for our next episode, which is where you'll be getting some advice from some young entrepreneurs about how to succeed in the Caribbean. So don't miss that. And yes.
Yes, so we just want to say thank you to our guest one more time, and to our listeners as usual for joining us and keeping up to date with our episodes. And until next time, we want to say walk good. All right.
All right. All right. Oh, it done. It done for you now.
Yes.
Okay.
This has been an episode of the Vision Seekers podcast. Together we can create a society that benefits us all. Send us an email at thevisionseekers.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube and Instagram at The Vision Seekers Podcast, and follow us on Twitter at Vision Seekers JA. We look forward to hearing from you.